who was a top 5 draft pick a couple years ago and has now been usurped by Daniel Jones. All right, so let us discuss the question. Let me check the water temperature, if you will, for the Colt fan. What is the temperature for the Colt fan on Daniel Jones being named QB1? You excited about this? All right, so my observations, I've got Morton's Fork, Snuffleupagus, and Tinder Date. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make some grilled chicken and rice is what we're going to make. There you go. Eat healthy. So number one. I said number one. Number one goes out to Sherwin. That number one was for Sherwin. So the water temperature here is lukewarm. Lukewarm. That's the water temperature. If you've got a tingly sensation about Daniel Jones being named QB number one, if you've got that, that's not excitement. Okay, it's not. That's something you should probably call the doctor about if you've got a tingly feeling about that. This is a Morton's Fork situation. If you don't know what that is, Google it. That's where you're stuck choosing between two equally unpleasant alternatives. And so it got me thinking, it's like when I was 7 years old, little fat Benny at the dinner table with Mama Maller and my pops and my brother. You know, at 7, I didn't have a younger brother. I was the youngest kid. My younger brother came after that. A little 7-year-old kid there, and I'm sitting down at dinner, and the mom says, my mom said, "Hey, Ben, good news. We are done trying to get your fat ass to eat broccoli at dinner." And I light up. I smile at my mom. I say, "Finally, here I am, 7 years old. 7 years old, and my mom is giving me respect. That's a good mom." And so I sit there, and I got a smile, kind of a smirk. I say, "Thank God, Mom. This is so great. You're my favorite mom. You're my only mom, but you're my favorite mom." And then my mom says, "Well, we're going to start serving cauliflower instead." And inside, I die. I absolutely die, right? Because that blows too, right? That sucks. And that's what this is. That's what this is, right? This is not a ribeye. This is not a ribeye. This is the steamed vegetables that you don't want. That's what this is. Right? And don't forget, like the ultimate embarrassment. You named Daniel Jones your starting quarterback in Indianapolis, and this is the guy that lost his job with the Giants to Tommy DeVito. Okay. Now, remember, Tommy DeVito is like a character actor in The Sopranos, is what he is. He's Tommy Cutlets. That's the guy that ended up being the quarterback for the Giants when Daniel Jones left town. Demoted for Tommy Cutlets. And Jones could not hold off the immense ability of Tommy DeVito, who looked, and still to this day looks like he should be serving chicken parm at his uncle's restaurant somewhere in Hoboken, New Jersey. But yet, he was the quarterback for the Giants and replaced Daniel Jones. And so, has Danny Dimes ever, let me ask you this, has he ever made anyone better that he played with? No. He has been sputtering for years, and the Giants kept playing him because they were like, well, we have to salvage Daniel Jones. So they changed players around him. They changed coaches, the whole thing. All right, and the one consistent, the common denominator in Daniel Jones is the bonehead play. Very good at that. His internal clock has been broken. It runs about as fast. He processes the defensive alignment about as fast as you move through the line without a reservation at the DMV. It doesn't go very well. And so, there's just no warm and fuzzy. There's no good way this could come out for the Colts. There's not. You can try to talk yourself into it, be a big fanboy, and say, oh, yeah, this is great. Now, does this quarterback decision, does it change the Colts ceiling in 2025? No. It doesn't. They're still barreling down the highway. The highway to hell is where they're going. I mean, they just are. And if everything breaks perfectly, I mean, the running game is good, and they stay relatively healthy. No one stays completely healthy, but you stay relatively healthy. You somehow put a pretty good defense together there in Indy. The offensive line doesn't fold up like a beach chair on a fat guy sitting on a beach chair. Then what do you max out at? What's the max on that? What is this? This is a average avenue. You're driving down average avenue. You get to 8 wins. Woohoo! We got 8 wins. Okay. 9 wins. Maybe 9 wins. Okay. 9 and 8. That's the tops right there. Of course, your ceiling is 9 and 8. Okay. So let's think this through. The basement. What is the basement? It is possible this team does not win a game. Okay, it's not like your quarterback's going to bail you out. So there is a world, the dimension in the multiverse where the Colts don't win a game. All right, now page 2. So there's been a lot of this is unfair, this is not right commentary for Anthony Richardson. Let's hear from the man himself here. Here's Anthony Richardson, the former starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, the chosen one who has now been the demoted one. Here's his take on being kicked to the curb.
You got to respect the decision. I feel like he's a better fit for the team, better fit for the outcome of us winning. So you just got to respect it and just keep working. That doesn't undermine any other work I've been putting in. Doesn't say that I haven't improved. I'm proud of the improvement I've made. Shane is also proud of that. So you just got to keep stacking on that and just keep getting better.
So we had the microphone. It was actually placed in Gary, Indiana, not in Indianapolis. Or was that South Bend, Indiana? Okay. I'm wearing headphones. I could barely make that out. That was bad. Why do we play it? Because we had it. That's why we played it. We played it because we had it, and we played it because we had it. All right. I don't even know what he said. I do know that Richardson's agent reacted with disappointment. Shocking he would be just disappointed his client has been benched. So he was upset. Said that he's unsure of Richardson's future with the Colts. Well, so are the Colts. Take a number. Now, the agent, Derek Jackson, I believe that's his name. I've never heard of him. So he wondered aloud whether or not Shane Steichen's quarterback decision, his decision might have been predetermined when the Colts signed Daniel Jones back in March to a 1-year contract for $14 million. So let's discuss. That's a good jumping off point. Did Anthony Richardson get a raw deal? Did he get a raw deal from Indy? So let's think about that. All right. The jury is in, and I've got 2 letters to the judge. N-O. No. Now, this was predetermined, but it was not predetermined when Daniel Jones signed the contract. In fact, as a distant relative of Nostradamus, friend of Nostradinus, he lives in Seattle, the Seattle area. This was predetermined. It was not because of Daniel Jones signing on the dotted line. Let me tell you, they could have signed, as my advisor Alf would say, the alien opiner, they could have signed Mr. Snuffleupagus, right? Sign Mr. Snuffleupagus, and he would be named the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. I know the exact date. It was October 27th, 2024. It was week 8 of the NFL season, 297 days ago exactly. From that point to the time the Colts made the decision. So 297 days. It was in Houston, Texas. That was the moment. Just a moment in time. Just a snapshot. And in that moment in time, that is when Anthony Richardson himself asked to be demoted as the QB number 1 in Indianapolis. He tapped out. He said, no mas. I'm Dunskies. I'm out of here. I can't play. He wasn't injured. He was gassed. He was not in shape. He pulled himself out of the game. That business is a capital offense. And he did it. And he didn't hide it. He talked about it openly. He didn't try to pretend like he did something else. He just said, this is what I did. Can't do it. Cannot do it. That's a no-fly zone, and you did it. That's high crimes and misdemeanors. That's a felony is what that is. And you incriminated yourself. And once you quit, once you say, that's it, once you quit on yourself like that in that profession, the coach, but more importantly, your teammates, you're done. right? Because they also would like to come out of the game. Like the people playing that, like it's a pain in the ass, man. You get to the second half of an NFL game, you're getting your ass, handed to you, and you'd like to step out of the game, but you have a job to do, and you're paid to be a top-flight professional athlete, and it's all about the grind, right? That's the whole point. It's a war of attrition. But you don't take yourself out of the war because you're tired. And he did it. You can't forgive that. You don't. It's like when you call in sick. It's like the equivalent in the real world is if you call in sick, it's, oh, man, I'm dying, dude. And you call your boss. You text him. I can't show up. Just I'm not doing good, and I feel horrific. I got to go to the doctor. I got to get some medicine. And then they see you. They're scrolling on Instagram, and they see you in a swimsuit on the beach. And you're drinking a cocktail. They don't look at you the same. They don't believe you. They don't trust you. You're out of the bubble of trust. And so that's the issue. You're out of the bubble of trust. And look, Jerry Glanville, you probably don't remember who that is if you're of a certain age, but he was this old NFL coach a million years ago, coached the Atlanta Falcons and some other teams. And Jerry Glanville said decades ago, the NFL stands for not for long. And certainly when you do that, Richardson leaning into that, and he learned the hard way. Tough love. Richardson was never, ever supposed to be the guy. That's the thing about this. Like, everyone talks about, there's a lot of people going, oh, this is not fair, this is not right, blah, 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 blah. He was never supposed to be drafted there in the first place. He should have been picked in the 4th or the 5th round, and he ended up going in the top 5. It was a total project from the beginning. Now, you know how I feel about the draft. I'd rather have dysentery than do draft shows at this point. It's all the scam. It's all the hustle. And instead of being drafted where you'd say, well, he's a developmental player, no, Jim Irsay, the late Jim Irsay, is like, we'll take him. It's like a make-a-wish situation. And, hey, let's take this kid. Give him a shot at quarterback. They did. They gave him a shot, and Richardson played like a guy that won a raffle, at a country fair. It's like, congratulations, way to go. You're the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. The only problem, of course, this was not a raffle. It was the NFL, and the results bear out. Now, there were two things that Anthony Richardson was truly elite at. There were two things. Anthony Richardson was elite at getting hurt. He was next-level superstar getting hurt. And what's the old line? You could not hit the broad side of a barn. You have no accuracy. He was essentially Tim Tebow-level accuracy. He was unplayable in the modern NFL. Like 50% completions or below most of the games, and that's it. So it's not a raw deal. It's not. I mean, it was a natural conclusion that anyone with half a brain who's not a fanboy would have made. He didn't get screwed. In fact, if anything, he was given an opportunity he did not deserve, Richardson. That he should have never been a QB1 for the Colts because he didn't deserve that based on his crappy college career. And then he proved that the people that were critics were right. The critic was right on this one. Could never throw accurately, couldn't stay healthy, and pulled himself out of the game. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, batter out. Batter out. So Richardson didn't get screwed by the Colts. He screwed himself. It's essentially what he did. All right, now, final point. Staying with the horseshoes, why not? So a couple of you idiots sent me this quote. It's just going. I guess it's been going around the last couple of days. I didn't see it until in the nighttime hours. So Andrew Luck popped up again. I haven't really thought about Andrew Luck in a long time. Why would I? Washed up athlete. I don't really think about those guys much. Anyway, Andrew Luck. Well, Anthony Richardson soon enough will be the washed up athlete. But Andrew Luck, get your crappy Colts quarterbacks right. So Andrew Luck popped up again. He was talking about his retirement. And this was behind a paywall on The Athletic. And he said, quote, I was going to play until 40 or 50. I thought I was invincible. And then he said, I fell out of love. I always have guilt, he said. I let my teammates down, close quote. So Andrew Luck, who famously, you talk about, the Colts have really done good at getting guys that quit. Like Anthony Richardson quit. He quit during a game. Andrew Luck, well, kind of quit during a game too. It was a preseason game, but he quit. They're really good. They lead the NFL in quitters. Colts football. We draft guys that quit. All right, so that'd be a good slogan, no? So is Andrew Luck saying that he let his teammates down justified, all these years later on his Colts retirement. So I'm nodding my head. Yes, I'm nodding my head. Yes, he's 100% right. And Luck did let them down. He did. This is what I said. I got killed for this take. This is take validation. That's why I'm bringing this up. It's Maller take validation. So I said this at the time. I said, he's a quitter. You can't do that. What are you doing? And you step away in March. You say, I'm done in April. Even if you wait till May, I'm good. I'm fine. Because I'm really the judge, jury, and execution. And I'm fine with that. When you have the overnight bully pulpit, those are decisions you make. So I'm okay with that. But at the 11th hour, just a couple weeks before the season kicks off, is not the time nor the place to say, I'm out. See you later, suckers. No. That's like telling your fiance on the way down the aisle with everyone there all dressed up in their church clothes, right? Everyone's all dressed up. And you say, by the way, surprise, I'm out. Good luck. You can't know. Luck, and by the way, there was a basketball player named Richard Jefferson, who I think's on network television now, who did that. He famously did that. Anyway, so he didn't just, Andrew Luck didn't just screw over. He didn't just screw over the team, the coaching staff, the fan. That's the part that I had a problem with. You announce, you have to pay a lot of money for these season tickets. Now, I'm not a season ticket holder, but I have friends of mine that buy the tickets, and they're very expensive, right? You got to give deposits and all that stuff. And he basically ghosted the entire franchise like the Colts. It was like a bad Tinder date, and he was like, all right, I ain't going to ghost this person. And don't even give him the excuse that you had to dog sit or something like that. You're just like, I'm out. I'm done. And you just ghost, just disappear. So no sob story. Right? As far as I don't want to hear about guilt. To me, that's a sob story. The whole guilt thing's a sob story. Boo-hoo-hoo, Andrew. And people were trying to make him the victim. I know we live in the age, not as much anymore the last couple of years, but it was like everyone's a victim for like 10 years. Everyone was a victim. Oh, my God. Drives me nuts. But there are real victims. But Andrew Luck was not the victim. Right? In fact, anything, the guilt, he should have guilt. He was the guy at the bar. Right? He was out there with his teammates at the bar, and he ducked out of the restaurant before the check showed up after having a bunch of booze and a bunch of appetizers and all that. I'm out. And the franchise has never recovered. They are still feeling the effects all these years later. There were years, I heard from boots on the ground that the late Jim Irsay was convinced that Andrew Luck, he'd come back in 2 years. And he didn't come back. And they were like, well, Andrew Luck has a house. I don't know if he still does. I know he's doing stuff for Stanford, but he lived in retirement down the street from the Colts practice facility because he thought, they thought, well, he lives here. He's going to come back and play quarterback for us. And he never did. And so they've had this like Broadway casting call, the Colts, where they had Phillip Rivers and they had Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan, and they had this suckbag Anthony Richardson who quit. Now they have Daniel Jones, who people hope will quit. And so it's like those guys don't belong on Broadway. They belong at like the Fargo Theater. Shout out to our guys in Fargo, North Dakota. Come on now. These are not leading legitimate, you have a bunch of washed up guys and never were good players. And those are the guys at the front. I mean, the franchise is still chasing its tail because one guy quit at the most inconvenient possible time to quit. And that's Andrew Luck's legacy. That's it. That's the legacy of Andrew Luck. Forget the stats. Forget all the promise and, he's going to be amazing. No. The full Monty. He bailed at the worst possible time and left everyone else holding the bag. Fans, teammates, coaches, everyone.